Have you ever felt like the world misunderstands you? That no matter how hard you try to explain yourself, no one truly sees you for who you are? Or maybe you felt something even deeper, a pull, a calling, as though you were meant for something extraordinary, something bigger than yourself. But here's the paradox: the more you lean into that calling, the lonelier your path becomes. It's as though the very thing that makes you special also isolates you from the rest of the world. This is the story of the chosen ones, those rare individuals who feel destined to walk a path that few can follow. But what no one tells you is that being chosen comes with a price, and that price is an intense, almost unbearable loneliness. This isn't the kind of loneliness you feel when you're simply without company. It's not about being alone, it's about being unseen, misunderstood, and alienated even when you're surrounded by people. Today, we're going to explore why this loneliness exists, how to navigate it, and why it might be the very thing that transforms you into the person you were meant to become. Think about it. Every great figure in history, the prophets, the philosophers, the innovators, they all walked this path of solitude. Jesus, for example, felt this loneliness deeply. In Matthew 26:40, as he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, he turned to his disciples and asked them, "Could you not watch with me 1 hour even in his darkest hour?" He was left alone, abandoned by those closest to him. Why? Because the weight of his mission was something they could not understand. His calling placed him on a level of existence that separated him from the ordinary concerns of others.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
This is the first truth about the loneliness of the chosen. It's not a punishment, it's a consequence of your uniqueness. The world operates on patterns, on norms, on shared experiences. But when you're chosen, your experiences diverge from the norm. You see things differently. You're driven by visions, ideas, or purposes that others cannot comprehend. And because they don't understand, they distance themselves. It's not that they don't care, it's that they can't see what you see. How could they? They haven't been called the way you have. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche captured this idea perfectly when he wrote, "And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. If you're a chosen one, you hear a music that others cannot. You're dancing to a rhythm that feels alien to the rest of the world. And while that might make you extraordinary, it also means that others will look at you with confusion, skepticism, or even judgment. They may mock you. They may try to pull you back into the patterns of the ordinary. And when they realize they can't, they may leave you behind. This is where the loneliness begins. But here's the thing: this loneliness isn't just external. It's not just that others distance themselves from you, it's also internal. You begin to feel disconnected not just from people, but from the world itself. You look around and realize that the things that excite others no longer excite you. The conversations that once felt engaging now feel hollow. The goals that society tells you to chase, money, status, comfort, start to feel meaningless. And this leads to a kind of existential loneliness, a sense of being untethered from the world around you. This is the second truth of the chosen one's loneliness. It forces you to confront yourself. When you're no longer distracted by the noise of the world, you're left alone with your thoughts, your fears, your doubts. This can be terrifying. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding this kind of confrontation. They drown it out with entertainment, with relationships, with work. But as a chosen one, you don't have that option. Your path demands introspection. It pushes you to look inward, to face the parts of yourself that you'd rather avoid. And this is where the transformation begins. Because in that solitude, in that stillness, you start to discover who you really are. You begin to strip away the layers of conditioning, the expectations that society has placed on you, and you start to see the truth of your existence. This is why so many spiritual traditions emphasize solitude as a path to enlightenment. The Buddha meditated alone under the Bodhi tree. Moses spent 40 days alone on Mount Sinai. Jesus wandered the desert for 40 days. These moments of solitude weren't punishments, they were crucibles. They were the spaces where transformation occurred. But let me be clear, this isn't an easy process. The loneliness of the chosen is not something to romanticize. It's painful, it's isolating, and there will be moments when you want to give up, when you wish you could go back to being normal. You'll look at others and envy their simplicity, their ability to find happiness in the things that no longer satisfy you. And in those moments, it's easy to feel like something is wrong with you, like you've made a mistake by following this path. But here's the third truth: the loneliness of the chosen is not permanent. It's a phase, a necessary part of your journey, but it's not the destination. Think of it like crossing a desert. The desert is vast, empty, and unforgiving. But it's also a place of purification. It strips away everything that is unnecessary, leaving only what is essential. And once you've crossed it, you emerge on the other side stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your purpose. This is where the practical advice comes in. If you're feeling the loneliness of the chosen, the first thing you need to do is embrace it. Stop fighting it. Stop trying to fill the void with distractions. Instead, lean into it. Use this time to get to know yourself. Journal, meditate, reflect. Ask yourself the hard questions: who am I? What do I truly want? What is my purpose? These are questions that can only be answered in solitude. Second, seek out others who are on a similar path. While the chosen ones are rare, they are not alone. There are others out there who feel the same call, who experience the same loneliness. They may be hard to find, but they exist. And when you connect with them, you'll realize that your loneliness was never about being alone. It was about finding your true tribe. Finally, remember that this loneliness is temporary. It's a phase of your journey, not the end of it. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once wrote, "The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have." But the inverse is also true. The most beautiful state of being is moving toward the future you know is meant for you. The loneliness you feel now is the price you pay for that future. And when you arrive, you'll look back and realize that it was worth it. Let's pick up where we left off. The loneliness of the chosen one is an undeniable reality, but it's also a process of refinement. The pain you feel isn't purposeless. It's shaping you, preparing you for what lies ahead. Yet there's more to uncover, because this journey isn't just about enduring loneliness. It's about understanding its deeper meaning and learning how to transform it into strength, wisdom, and connection. Let's go deeper into why this loneliness exists. One of the most profound reasons is that being chosen means being set apart. In the Bible, Jeremiah 1:5 speaks directly to this. "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." To be set apart is both a privilege and a burden. It means your life will not follow the same trajectory as others. It means the comforts, distractions, and validations that most people rely on will not satisfy you in the same way. This is because your mission, your purpose, requires a different level of focus, discipline, and perspective. But here's the crucial insight: this separation isn't designed to punish you, it's designed to elevate you. Think of it like a sculptor working on a block of marble. Each strike of the chisel removes something unnecessary, something that doesn't belong to the final vision. The process is violent, and to the untrained eye, it might look like destruction. But to the sculptor, it's creation. The loneliness you feel is the chisel. It's stripping away your attachments, your illusions, your fears. It's painful, yes, but it's also purposeful. There's a term in psychology called liminal space. It refers to the in-between moments in life, the transitions. The spaces where you've left one stage behind but haven't yet entered the next. Liminal spaces are uncomfortable because they're undefined. You're no longer who you were, but you're not yet who you're becoming. This is where the chosen one often finds themselves, in a liminal space, detached from the world they used to know, but not yet fully integrated into the world they're meant to create. And this space, this in-between, is inherently lonely. But here's the paradox: it's also where the magic happens. It's in this space of isolation that you have the opportunity to redefine yourself. You're no longer bound by the expectations of others or the limitations of your past. You're free to imagine, to create, to explore. This is why so many breakthroughs, spiritual, intellectual, and creative, happen in moments of solitude. When you're cut off from the noise of the world, you can finally hear the whisper of your soul. Take the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, for example. He famously said, "If you're lonely when you're alone, you're in bad company." What he meant is that true self-awareness comes from being comfortable with yourself, from learning to be your own companion. Loneliness forces you to confront who you are without the distractions of other people's opinions, expectations, or validations. And while this confrontation can be painful, it's also liberating. It allows you to see yourself clearly, perhaps for the first time. But let's address the practical side of this. How do you actually cope with this loneliness? How do you navigate it without letting it consume you? The first step is to shift your mindset. Instead of seeing loneliness as something to be avoided, embrace it as a teacher. Ask yourself, what is this loneliness trying to show me? What can I learn from it? When you approach it with curiosity instead of resistance, you'll find that it has valuable lessons to offer. Next, create rituals for yourself, daily practices that anchor you in your purpose. This could be journaling, meditating, exercising, or even something as simple as taking a walk in nature. The key is to find activities that connect you to yourself and to the present moment. These rituals act as a kind of scaffolding, giving you structure and stability as you navigate the uncertainty of your path. Another powerful practice is to seek out solitude intentionally. This might sound counterintuitive. Why would you seek more of something that already feels overwhelming? But here's the thing, when you choose solitude on your own terms, it feels different. It's no longer something that's happening to you, it's something you're actively engaging with. This shift in perspective can be incredibly empowering. Instead of feeling like a victim of your loneliness, you become its master. And then there's the importance of finding meaning. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and author of Man's Search for Meaning, wrote that in some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. The same is true for loneliness. When you understand that your loneliness is part of a larger purpose, it stops being something to escape and becomes something to embrace. It becomes a sign that you're on the right path, that you're growing into the person you were meant to be. But let's also be honest, there will be moments when it feels unbearable. Moments when the weight of your calling feels too heavy, when you wonder if it's worth it. In those moments, it's important to remember that you're not alone in your loneliness. Every chosen one, every prophet, every philosopher, every visionary has felt what you're feeling. And they endured. They found a way to keep going, not because it was easy, but because they knew that their purpose was worth the pain. And this brings us to the final insight of this part. The loneliness of the chosen one is not permanent. It evolves. As you grow, as you step more fully into your purpose, you'll find that the very things that once isolated you begin to connect you. The people who couldn't understand you before will start to see the value in your perspective. The loneliness you felt will transform into a kind of quiet strength, a deep inner knowing that you are exactly where you're meant to be. So here's the question I want to leave you with. What if your loneliness isn't a sign that something is wrong? What if it's a sign that something is right? That you're on the verge of a breakthrough? That you're becoming the person you were always meant to be? Sit with that question. Let it sink in. And remember, this journey isn't about avoiding the pain, it's about finding the purpose within it. The loneliness of the chosen one is not an end in itself. It's a passage, a transformation, and ultimately a gift that reveals its purpose only when you've endured its most difficult moments. To truly understand its significance, we must explore the final phase of this journey, the point where you begin to transcend the isolation and move into a deeper relationship with yourself, others, and the world around you. This is where the loneliness dissolves into something far more profound: connection, meaning, and fulfillment. First, let's address why this transformation happens. The loneliness of the chosen one is not a permanent state because it is tied to growth. Growth, by its nature, is uncomfortable. It requires you to shed old identities, beliefs, and attachments. And in doing so, it isolates you from those who are still attached to the things you've outgrown. This is why, as you ascend to higher levels of awareness and purpose, you may feel increasingly detached from the people and environments you once found comfort in. But this detachment is not forever. It's a necessary step that allows you to rebuild your life on a foundation that aligns with your true self. Think about a seed buried in the ground. In the darkness of the soil, it may feel isolated, cut off from the light and the air above. But this isolation is what allows the seed to germinate, to grow roots, and to eventually break through the surface and reach the sun. In the same way, your loneliness is the darkness that precedes your growth. It's not a punishment, it's preparation. One of the most important shifts that happens during this phase is the realization that you no longer need external validation to feel whole. This is one of the greatest gifts of the chosen one's journey. In the beginning, loneliness feels unbearable because you're still seeking connection and understanding from others. You want someone to tell you that you're on the right path, that your struggles are worth it. But as you grow, you begin to find that validation within yourself. You start to trust your inner voice, your intuition, your sense of purpose. And when that happens, the need for external approval fades away. This shift is beautifully captured in a quote by the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius. "It never ceases to amaze me, we all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." The loneliness of the chosen one forces you to reverse this equation. It teaches you to value your own opinion, your own truth, above the noise of the world. And when you do, you become unshakable. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to others or seek their understanding. You're no longer dependent on the world for your sense of worth. This is true freedom. But let's take this even deeper. Once you've reached this point of self-reliance, something remarkable happens. The very loneliness that once felt like a curse begins to transform into a source of power. You realize that solitude is not the same as isolation. Solitude is a choice, a state of being where you can connect with yourself on a profound level. It's where your creativity flourishes, where your insights deepen, where your soul finds its voice. And from this place of inner connection, you begin to connect with others in a way that is far richer and more meaningful than before. You see, the chosen one's journey doesn't end in isolation, it ends in unity. But this unity is different from the shallow connections you may have experienced in the past. It's not about fitting in or conforming to the expectations of others. It's about finding your tribe, those rare individuals who resonate with your purpose, who understand your struggles because they've walked a similar path. These connections are not numerous, but they are profound. They are based on authenticity, mutual respect, and a shared sense of mission. And here's the paradox: the stronger your connection to yourself, the easier it becomes to connect with others. When you no longer need others to fill a void within you, you can approach relationships from a place of abundance rather than lack. You're no longer looking for someone to complete you, you're looking for someone to share your completeness with. This is the ultimate resolution of the chosen one's loneliness, the realization that true connection begins within. But what about the practical steps to reach this point? How do you move from loneliness to connection without getting stuck in the pain of isolation? Here are 3 key principles to guide you. First, cultivate gratitude for your journey. It's easy to view loneliness as a burden, but what if you saw it as a gift? What if you could look at your solitude and say, "This is where I grow. This is where I become who I'm meant to be." Gratitude is a powerful mindset shift that can transform your experience of loneliness. Instead of resisting it, you embrace it as an essential part of your path. Second, focus on contribution. One of the most effective ways to overcome loneliness is to shift your attention from yourself to others. Ask yourself, how can I use my gifts, my experiences, my struggles to help others? When you focus on serving others, you create a sense of purpose that transcends your loneliness. You realize that your journey is not just about you, it's about the impact you can have on the world. Finally, trust the process. The loneliness of the chosen one is not something you can rush through or bypass. It's a process that unfolds in its own time. There will be moments when it feels endless, when you doubt whether it's leading anywhere. But remember this, every great transformation requires patience. The caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly overnight. The seed doesn't sprout the moment it's planted. Trust that your loneliness is leading you towards something greater, even if you can't see it yet. As we near the end of this journey, let's return to the question we began with: why does every chosen one feel this intense loneliness? The answer is simple yet profound: because you are being prepared. You are being refined. You are being set apart so that you can fulfill a purpose that only you can fulfill. And while this process is painful, it's also sacred. It's shaping you into the person you're destined to become. So when the loneliness feels overwhelming, remember this: you are not alone in your loneliness. Every chosen one, every prophet, every philosopher, every visionary has walked this path before you. And just as they endured, so will you. Because the loneliness of the chosen one is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of something extraordinary.